I had replayed this moment in my head for years. The day I would walk into the county clerk's office in Phoenix, Arizona, and finally put my name on something that belonged to me. My own contracting business, 12 years of sweating on job sites, learning every skill from drywall to roofing, saving every spare dollar, skipping vacations, skipping sleep, building toward one goal, independence. I woke before sunrise, ironed my only decent shirt, and carried a blue folder packed with permits, tax forms, and a business plan I'd rewritten 20 times. The desert heat wasn't even up yet, but my hope was. And when I stepped up to the counter, smiling like an idiot, I didn't know the ground under my feet was already cracked. The clerk typed my information into her system, her acrylic nails clicking softly on the keyboard. She didn't look excited. She didn't look impressed. But the moment her eyebrows pulled together, my stomach dipped. "Sir," she said slowly, eyes narrowing at her monitor. Someone with your last name filed this business name yesterday." Yesterday. The word hit like a thrown brick. My ears buzzed, drowning out the office chatter. I leaned in, sure I'd misheard. "That can't be right," I said. "I haven't filed anything yet." She glanced from the screen to me, uncertainty flickering across her expression. And then she said the part that made everything inside me go still. She swiveled the monitor so I could see it. "Maybe you can confirm if this person is related to you?" On the screen was my business name. My exact business name. Spelled the same way. Styled the same way. Registered under the same type of contracting license I had trained years for. And below that, like a final punch, was a scanned signature. Not mine, but close enough to feel like a violation. My mouth went dry. My vision tunneled. Because the handwriting looping across that signature line was unmistakable. I'd seen it on birthday cards, loan agreements, and the note he left on my truck window last month asking to borrow it real quick. It was my little brother's handwriting. The clerk kept talking something about how she could file a dispute, how a name conflict might take weeks, how I might need legal help, but her voice faded out like static. I stared at that signature, disbelief turning to something darker. My little brother, the one I used to drive to, the one I hired on jobs when he needed money, the one I pulled out of trouble more times than I could count, the one I defended when our family said he lacked direction. He hadn't stolen a tool, or a truck, or a check this time. He'd stolen my future, my dream, my entire business, before I even had the chance to launch it. I stepped away from the counter, blue folder hanging limp in my hands, heart pounding against my ribs. My phone buzzed once, twice, 3 times. Messages I didn't check. I walked outside into the heat, needing air that didn't taste like betrayal. But as the automatic doors closed behind me, something caught my eye. A man sitting in a truck across the parking lot, slouched low, wearing a hoodie despite the 92-degree morning. He was watching me, watching closely. I squinted, confused. The truck looked familiar. Too familiar. Then the driver leaned forward into the sunlight just enough for me to see his face. It was my brother, smiling. And that was the moment I realized he wasn't just stealing my business, he was waiting to see what I would do next. My brother's smirk stayed burned into my vision long after he drove away, leaving tire dust swirling around my boots. My heart still hammered with disbelief as I stared at the empty parking lot. That was when reality hit. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't some mixed-up paperwork. He had planned it. He wanted to steal something he didn't earn. And before I could confront him, before the anger could swallow me, I forced myself to breathe and ground myself, because this wasn't just about him. This was about me, my life, my effort, my identity. So let me start with the truth of who I am and how I got here. My name is Derek Lawson. I'm 34 years old. Born and raised under the brutal, sun-scorched skies of Arizona, where summer feels like the air is trying to peel your skin off, and winter lasts 3 afternoons before giving up. I grew up learning how to work with my hands, not because it was romantic or inspiring, but because survival demanded it. When you're raised in a family like mine, loud, proud, stubborn, you learn early how to swing a hammer before you learn how to spell it. And out of all of us, I was the one who stuck with it. But as I stared at the county clerk's doors behind me, I realized sticking with something only mattered if the world didn't shove you off your path first. I've been everything the trades could throw at me: drywall installer, framer, roofer, tile setter, plumber's assistant, electrician's helper. If it required sweat, I did it. If it required danger, I did it twice. My hands tell the story: thin scars across my knuckles, a fingertip a shade lighter from a saw slip, a burn on my wrist from a torch line that snapped. Every mark was a step toward the company I wanted to build. For 12 years, I lived paycheck to paycheck by choice, saving every extra dollar, skipping weekends out, patching holes in my own boots instead of buying new ones. I didn't grind because I had to. I grinded because I believed it would pay off. I refused loans, refused debt, refused shortcuts. If I was going to build something, it would be mine clean, honest, paid for. With time I couldn't get back. That was my dream. That was my sacrifice. And until this morning, I thought my family admired that. I thought every sweaty day I came home, every late night I stayed out on a job site, every holiday I skipped because I needed the overtime, they'd see the purpose behind it. I thought my mother would brag about me, thought my father would nod with approval, thought my little brother would look up to me. But as the clerk's words echoed in my skull, I realized pride wasn't what my family wanted from me. They wanted ownership, control, access to the thing I spent 12 years building, not because they worked for it, but because they were related to the one who did. And when I finally got into my truck and checked my phone, I found a text from my brother waiting for me. "We need to talk before you do something stupid." I stared at the message, blood boiling, because he didn't just steal my business. He thought he could steal my reaction to it too. By the time I pulled into my driveway, the desert sun was already low, throwing long shadows across the gravel. I barely had the truck door shut when my phone pinged again, another notification, then another, then a flood of them. At first, I thought Zach was blowing up my phone directly. But when I opened the app, my stomach dropped. He hadn't just filed the business license. He'd made a Facebook announcement, a big one, with emojis and hashtags, and a caption that made my blood run cold, proud to announce our new contracting company. He didn't even bother to ask if I agreed. He announced it to the world. Front and center of the post was a picture of us as kids, me holding a toy hammer, him holding a plastic drill, a throwback photo he dug out to use as a logo. And below that, a long, rambling paragraph about how we've been working toward this dream together since we were boys. Lies. All of it. The comments were full of congratulations, family members cheering him on, old friends tagging each other, everyone believing we were partners. I scrolled further and my chest tightened. He had uploaded my portfolio photos, the custom tile jobs, the roofing restorations, the interior remodels, work I had poured sweat into, work he hadn't lifted a finger for. And with each photo he posted, he wrote, "One of our recent projects." My pulse pounded in my ears as I stormed into the house. And there he was, Zach, sitting on my couch like he owned it, shoes off, feet up, eating the leftover pizza I bought. His grin spread slow as he saw me, the kind that wasn't apologetic, it was triumphant. "Saw your messages," he said casually. "Don't freak out. It's good news." I stared at him, speechless, my jaw locked. He turned his phone around to show me the Facebook post like it was some kind of trophy. "Dude, look at the engagement. This is gonna blow up. People love us already." "Us?" I said. "You stole everything." He laughed. Actually laughed. "Man, don't be dramatic," he said. "Think about it. You've been talking about this business for years, but you never actually pulled the trigger. Someone had to get things moving." My hands clenched at my sides. "You filed under my business name." He shrugged. "Names aren't personal. This is. We're doing it together. We're partners now." He said it like it was an honor, like I should thank him, like he hadn't walked into the county office and taken the future I'd built $1 at a time. His eyes glinted with something colder than confidence, entitlement. I never agreed to be partners, I said. "You took my idea, my plan, my portfolio, everything." He leaned back, crossing his arms. "You were taking too long," he said. "I accelerated the process." Accelerated. That was his word for stealing, his word for betrayal, his word for hijacking 12 years of my work. I opened my mouth to respond, but before I could speak, Zach's phone lit up with a notification. His smile widened. "Looks like we just got our first client," he said. And the name on the job request made my skin crawl because it was someone who hadn't spoken to me in years, yet somehow knew to congratulate both of us. The name on Zach's phone belonged to an old friend of mine's aunt, someone who hadn't spoken to me since I turned down a job for her years ago because I was already booked solid. She'd always held a grudge for that. Somehow, Zach found her. Or maybe she found him the second he posted our business. Either way, it sent a chill down my spine. Zach accepted the job before I could stop him, bragging about our team, his voice loud enough to echo through the entire house. And as I watched him swagger out the door, with two guys I didn't recognize, one carrying a beer, one carrying nothing but attitude, I realized something terrifying. He wasn't just stealing my business. He was about to destroy it. Within a week, Zach's crew started taking job after job my jobs. Clients I'd worked with for years. People who trusted me. People who'd built entire remodel schedules around my timelines. They reached out because they recognized my last name. They assumed Zach was trained like me. Instead, he showed up with unlicensed friends who treated job sites like tailgate parties. They blasted music, drank beer on scaffolding, used the wrong materials, skipped prep work, and left houses looking like crime scenes. Zach called it quick work. Everyone else called it destruction. One homeowner sent me photos. Tile installed so uneven you could trip over it. Drywall seams left open like gaping wounds. Painted over mold still, bubbling under the surface. Cuts in flooring that looked like axe marks. A toilet tank lid snapped clean in half. And there in every corner of those photos were Zach and his buddies laughing, smoking, posing like they were on a reality show. My chest tightened, because I knew exactly what would come next. And I was right. Angry voicemails started piling up. First one, then 4, then 11. Every morning, my phone blew up before I even opened my eyes. "You ruined my house," a woman screamed. "You left exposed wiring. Our cat got shocked. Do you know how dangerous that is?" Another shouted, "Are you licensed? Are you even insured?" I tried explaining, but who listens to explanations when their house is destroyed? Zach didn't give clients his number. He gave them mine. The breaking point came on a Tuesday morning at 6:12 a.m. My phone jolted me awake with a voicemail from a woman I'd never met. Her voice cracked with fury. "You're a fraud. I'm suing you. You left my bathroom flooded. My vanity ruined. My wall patched with cardboard." Cardboard. I sat up in bed, pulse thundering. I had never set foot in her home. Never even heard her name. But when she sent me the photos, cheap materials, sloppy work, tools left coated in beer foam, I recognized the one thing she didn't mention. In every shot, there was a guy wearing my brother's hoodie, working under my business name. And when I checked Yelp, my stomach twisted. She had posted a 1-star review under my name, with my headshot, calling me the contractor who should never be allowed inside a home again. But the worst part wasn't the review. It was the comment beneath it, left by Zach himself. I warned him not to cut corners. And that was the moment I realized he wasn't just stealing my clients, he was setting me up to take the fall. I thought the Yelp review was rock bottom. I thought Zach had already taken everything he could take from me. I thought the damage, public humiliation, angry clients, stolen credit couldn't possibly get worse. I was wrong. Rock bottom has trapdoors. And Zach knew exactly how to open them. A week later, right when I finally started scrubbing my name off the internet, my phone rang. The number belonged to a lumber supplier I'd used for years. A guy named Miguel, solid dude, always fair on pricing. He never called unless something serious was wrong. The second I answered, his voice was clipped, irritated. "Derek, why haven't you paid for the lumber order?" My stomach tightened. "What lumber order?" I asked. There was a long silence. Then he said, "Don't play games. It was a big one. A rush order. You signed for it." Within 20 minutes, I was speeding across Phoenix, heart punching my ribs like it wanted out. When I walked into the supplier's office, Miguel pulled out a clipboard without a word. He slapped the contract down in front of me, the pen indent still visible in the paper. And the second I looked at the signature, I felt heat shoot up my neck. It was my name but forged. My handwriting but wrong. My signature, but stretched out like someone practiced it too many times. "That's not me," I said. Miguel raised an eyebrow. "Then who the hell is this?" He turned his computer screen toward me. A scanned business card filled the monitor. My face, my phone number, my company name, my contracting license number, my branding colors, all printed on a card I had never designed, never touched, never approved. And right below my picture, it read, "Co-founder, Derek Lawson, co-founder." Meaning Zach made himself the other one. Meaning he didn't steal my identity. He mass-produced it. I felt sick. Zach hadn't just filed the business name behind my back. He hadn't just stolen clients. He had forged full-blown contracts, used my name on tens of thousands of dollars in materials, lied to suppliers, built an entire mock version of my company while I was still figuring out how to finalize my licensing. He didn't just steal my business. He stole my future. When I confronted my parents, hoping for support, some outrage, some acknowledgement of the disaster, they didn't even flinch. My mom sighed and said Zach was ambitious. My dad shrugged and said I was overreacting. Overreacting. As if forgery, theft, fraud, and identity theft were quirks of a passionate entrepreneur. My mother even said, "You should be proud. He wants to follow in your footsteps." I stared at them in disbelief. They weren't confused. They weren't misinformed. They were choosing him. And then my dad added the one sentence that twisted the knife all the way in. He just got there first. You should have moved faster. But before I could respond, Miguel called back. His voice was tight, urgent. "Derek, more orders just came in under your name." And that was the moment I realized Zach wasn't done, he was accelerating. When Miguel's warning came through that more fake orders were piling up under my name, I expected panic from my family, alarm, concern, something. But instead, my mom called and asked if I could come over for a family meeting, her voice soft and sugary like she was inviting me for pie instead of a crisis intervention. Part of me hoped stupidly that she finally understood the mess Zach had thrown me into, that she realized what identity theft actually meant. So I went. Hope is a dangerous drug, especially in families like mine. I walked into the living room, expecting seriousness. Instead, Mom was calmly setting out cookies like this was a book club gathering. Dad sat reclined, half watching a football rerun, barely acknowledging the disaster his youngest son created. When I laid out the fake contracts, the forged signature, the stolen jobs, the unpaid supplier orders, my mother didn't gasp, didn't flinch, didn't show even a flicker of anger. She just sighed, like I was the one inconveniencing her. Then she said the sentence that punched the breath from my lungs. "Derek, he just wants to be like you. He idolizes you. Let him help. Let him help." Help? He had stolen my business before it even existed. He had ruined my reputation. He was burying me in debt, and she was calling it helping. The room tilted as my father chimed in, voice full of irritation. "He's the young one. You're supposed to look out for him." Translation: let him take what he wants. He's the favorite. You're the worker. I stared at them both, disbelief sour on my tongue. Look out for him? I repeated. He forged my signature. That's fraud. He stole thousands. He lied to clients using my identity. Mom waved her hand dismissively, like fraud was a parking ticket. "Boys will be boys," she murmured. Dad grunted his agreement. Something inside me cracked, not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, like a bone breaking beneath the skin. Then the front door opened. Zach strolled in late, like a celebrity arriving after the applause. He was wearing a shirt with MY business name and MY plan logo, one he had stolen from my Dropbox. Over the shoulder was a folder. My business folder. The one I had built for years. And he carried it like it was a snack menu. He plopped down across from me, kicked his feet up on Mom's coffee table, and without a shred of shame, said, "Dude, chill. We'll split profits after expenses." I blinked. "Your expenses?" I asked slowly. He grinned like he'd won something. "Yeah, obviously. Gas, payroll, materials, equipment, you know." Except I did know. Because I had already checked the online banking. And his expenses had already drained the joint business account he opened using my stolen identity details. My voice dropped low. "You emptied the account." Zach shrugged. "Had to get things rolling. That's what partners do." Partners. The same lie he kept repeating like a shield. Before I could respond, he leaned forward and said something that made my blood run cold. "Be a team player, Derek. If you just stop fighting me, we'd already be successful." And that was the moment I realized Zach didn't want to be my partner, he wanted to replace me entirely. The thing about betrayal is this: you expect it to come from knives, not invoices. You expect it to bleed, not bill. After the family meeting, after Zach swaggered away in my stolen company shirt, acting like he owned me, I thought the worst was already on my doorstep. I was wrong. The real breaking point didn't hit like a punch. It hit like a phone call, a trembling, tear-filled voice from someone who trusted me. That's when everything shifted. That's when I realized my brother wasn't just ruining my life. He was destroying innocent people in my name. It happened on a Thursday evening. I was repairing a fence for a neighbor, one of the last jobs I still had, when my phone buzzed. The number belonged to an elderly couple I'd done small handyman work for years ago. Sweet people. The kind who bring cold lemonade out on hot days and tell you stories about their grandchildren. I answered, expecting a friendly hello. Instead, the woman's voice cracked. "Derek, why did you send us this letter?" My stomach tightened. "What letter?" There was shuffling. Then her husband got on, voice shaky. "Son, we don't understand. It says we owe you $4,800 for unfinished services. We never hired you for anything this month. Unfinished services. $4,800. My breath caught because the phrasing matched Zach's new invoices template he posted online. They emailed me a photo of the letter. My name, my fake business logo, my forged signature, in terms so aggressive it bordered on extortion. It demanded immediate payment or legal actions will be taken. My jaw locked, my fists clenched. But the worst part wasn't the forged letter. It was the fear in their voices. They weren't angry. They were scared, confused, exhausted. An elderly couple thinking I had turned on them, threatening them for money they didn't know. They had trusted me. I'd repaired their sink, fixed their porch light, shoveled their driveway after a rare Phoenix winter storm. And now they were crying, apologizing to me for not understanding the invoice. I felt something inside me crack. A deep, sharp break I couldn't tape over like drywall. I didn't send that, I said firmly. I would never send that. You're being scammed. The woman sobbed harder. We didn't want to make you upset. We just wanted to understand. My chest tightened until it hurt to breathe. This wasn't about money anymore. This wasn't about reputation. This wasn't even about family. This was about harm. Real harm. Because Zach wasn't just stealing jobs. He was using my name to intimidate vulnerable people. People who trusted me. People who didn't deserve to be dragged into his chaos. I told them I'd handle it. I promised them they'd owe nothing. I promised them I'd fix this. They thanked me over and over, even though they'd done nothing wrong. And when the call finally ended, I stood there in the fading Arizona light, fists shaking, jaw clenched so hard my teeth ached. That was it. The line. The moment the snapping sound inside me turned into action. I wasn't just losing a business anymore. I wasn't just losing money. I wasn't just losing my name. Someone was weaponizing my identity to hurt innocent people. And as I opened my emails, I saw something worse, an attachment from a law office titled, Notice of Pending. Legal Action Lawson Contracting. The lawsuit was already filed. The lawsuit letter sat in my passenger seat like a brick. Thick, heavy, final. I read it 3 times before accepting it was real. Zach hadn't just played games, he had dragged me into legal fire. Fraud. Identity theft. Contractual negligence. Damages. My name was the one on the paperwork. The court date stared back at me like an execution notice. And something in me shifted. Fear hardened into purpose. Anger sharpened into strategy. So I did what I never thought I'd have to do to my own blood. I built a case. I spent days gathering everything, every forged signature, every fake invoice, every overlapping timestamp, showing Zach posting from job sites I'd never visited. I printed screenshots of his Facebook posts, calling me his partner, screenshots of clients complaining, screenshots of messages where he bragged to friends about outsmarting me. I saved every voicemail threat, every angry homeowner message, every photo of botched work done under my stolen name. I filed copies of the business filing date showing Zach beat me by less than 24 hours. Each piece of paper was a nail. Each screenshot was a hammer. By the end, I had a binder thick enough to break a coffee table. When Mom invited me to another family dinner, I didn't go hoping for support this time. I went for war. I pulled into their driveway with the binder under my arm. Their house glowed warm through the window's yellow light, soft music playing. A picture-perfect family scene. A lie. I walked in and set the binder on the dining table with a thud that shook the salt shaker. Zach snorted. A full, dismissive laugh. Bro, relax. You always make things dramatic. He had no clue how dramatic things were about to get. I flipped open the binder. Page after page. Evidence lined up like soldiers. Their dinner plates became islands around the paperwork tsunami I unleashed. My mom's hand covered her mouth. My dad stopped chewing. Zach's laughter died mid-breath. I watched the arrogance drain from his face as he realized this wasn't a tantrum. This wasn't a disagreement. This was proof. Cold, hard, in his handwriting. But the moment that cut through the room like a blade was when I pulled out the attorney letter, the one notifying me of the pending lawsuit against Lawson Contracting, the business he created. I unfolded it and laid it gently in the center of the table. Silence. Deep. Heavy. The kind that shakes houses. Mom gasped so sharply it sounded like a choke. Dad went pale, his fork dropping from his hand. Zach froze. His jaw tightened. His shoulders stiffened. And for the first time since this nightmare began, the confident smirk fell off his face like it had never belonged there. He swallowed hard. His eyes flicked from the papers to me, then back again. The truth wasn't just printed in black and white. It was choking the air out of the room. And then finally Zach spoke, barely above a whisper. Where? Where did you get all this? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Because the next envelope I slid across the table wasn't evidence. It was a subpoena. And when Zach saw his name on it, the color drained from his face. Completely. The subpoena changed everything. Zach wasn't used to consequences, only cover-ups. Only being protected. Only being excused because he was the baby, the dreamer, the one with potential. But the moment he saw his own name printed next to the words fraud investigation, the floor finally gave out under him. He tried denying everything, of course. Claimed the evidence wasn't real. Claimed I was setting him up. But forged signatures don't lie. Bank records don't lie. Screenshots don't lie. And when state investigators got involved, even my parents' denial couldn't shield him. I spent weeks rebranding, building a new identity piece by piece. It felt symbolic, like shedding a skin I never asked to wear. I created a new company name, one Zach didn't know and couldn't touch. I designed a logo that represented my actual craftsmanship, not some stolen childhood photo. I filed a new license, sat through new interviews, redid paperwork I'd already done once. Because starting over was safer than fighting to reclaim what he'd poisoned. It was exhausting, but it was mine. When I reported Zach to the state board, I expected a fight. Expected doubt. Expected bureaucracy. Instead, I was surprised at how quickly they recognized what had happened. Business identity theft wasn't new to them, just devastating. They pulled up the fraudulent filings, the mismatched signatures, the fake invoices. They saw the supplier statements, the fraudulent cards, the complaints tied to a license number I hadn't even received yet. And for the first time, someone in authority said the words I'd been starving to hear. You're the victim here. Zach faced fines, investigations, and eventually, he got blacklisted from contracting work entirely. He tried, blaming me at every turn. Told investigators I manipulated him. Told my parents I ruined his future. Told friends I stole the company from him. But evidence doesn't care about guilt trips. Documents don't bend because someone whines. And the truth? Zach had built his own downfall the moment he tried building a business with theft instead of talent. Meanwhile, I launched my real business. Quietly, slowly, honestly. No hype posts. No childhood photos. No fake claims of partnership. Just me, my tools, my skill, and the work ethic that had kept me going for more than a decade. My first official client knew about the mess Zach had created. Everyone did. Phoenix is loud like that. But they hired me anyway. Trusted me anyway. And when I finished the job, they left a review that made my chest tighten in a way I hadn't felt in months. Derek saved our home from a second contractor who scammed us. And it wasn't even his mess. Some wounds take money to heal. Others take truth. But this one took rebuilding myself from the ground up. As I read that review, sitting in my work truck with the desert sun dipping low behind the mountains, I realized something unexpected. I didn't just get my business back. I got my name back, my reputation, my future, my identity. And Zach, he didn't steal a business. He lost a brother. The months that followed felt like stepping out of a dust storm I didn't realize I'd been trapped in for. My phone stopped buzzing with threats and complaints. My name finally stood on its own without Zach's shadow poisoning it. Clients came slowly, at first one referral, then two, then a couple who said they'd heard about what you went through and still trust your work. Every job felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. My workshop was small, my tools were old, but for once, the dream belonged only to me. The silence was peaceful until it wasn't. Because peace has a way of ringing loud when someone tries to break it. One humid evening, while I was cleaning grout dust off my saw, my phone buzzed. Mom. I hesitated. Let it ring twice. 3 times. I finally answered. Not out of obligation, but curiosity. Her voice came through tight, trembling with a mix of worry and expectation. Derek, your brother needs help. The words dropped like stones. Help. Money. A place to crash. Tools. She listed them like groceries, things she expected me to hand over without question. My jaw tightened as she continued. He's had a rough time. Lost work. Bills piling up. Maybe you can, be the bigger man. Bigger man. Their favorite demand. I walked outside and stared at the Arizona sunset bleeding across the sky. Mom didn't ask how I was doing. Didn't ask how the business was going. Didn't mention the lawsuit or the mess Zach caused. Just jumped straight to his needs. his struggles, his consequences, and she framed them like my responsibility, like suffering had a pecking order and mine didn't count. I listened quietly until she said it again. You should help him. He's your brother. The same sentence she'd used my whole life. But this time, it didn't land. I finally spoke, steady and clear. Mom, I don't have to be the bigger man anymore. There was silence, sharp, stunned silence. Then I added the words that had taken me 12 years to learn. I just have to be done. She sputtered, tried guilt, tried nostalgia, tried her old lines about family sticking together. But guilt didn't stick anymore. The hooks were rusted. The manipulation no longer fit the locks in my chest. For the first time, I hung up without my throat tightening, without shame curling in my stomach, without fear suffocating the breath out of me. For the first time, the silence after a family phone call felt like freedom. The next morning, I woke up early, brewed cheap coffee, and opened my workshop door to a cool breeze. The logo I designed, my logo, was painted on the wall. My tools were lined up exactly how I liked them. My invoices were clean. My name was respected. My schedule full. This business wasn't borrowed, wasn't stolen, wasn't shared. It was mine. Clients kept coming. Word spread. Someone even said, "You're the guy who fixed what that scammer ruined." I didn't correct them, not because I wanted to hide the truth, but because the truth was finally working for me instead of against me. As I locked my truck and headed to the next job, I felt something settle inside me. Something steady, solid, earned. This time, the business was mine. My future was mine. My name was mine. And Zach? He finally learned the difference between stealing a business and being someone who could have built one.